Hello, it's Erica of Herbal Arts, and it's time for Sunday demo. I'll let people gather. I actually pulled and prepped some stuff, so I don't have to go digging in tubs on camera. I've been using today I still got to do some laundry and dishes, but doing some household stuff. Had to deal with a fraud alert, but that got taken care of. It just didn't. I bought something off a website and it didn't like that website. So, but that means I'm all set now to do and pay for Convergence. So when I get off of this, I didn't want to do it beforehand just in case I ran into a snafu. I'm putting in my Convergence application. Nothing like waiting till the last minute. Prices go up tomorrow. So save myself $100 by doing it today. And I will say the people at HGA, Hand Weavers Guild of America, were great. I had messaged them. I found the website a little confusing, particularly the pricing structure. And that you had to, I'm a member as a professional artist. I have an account. But to get the early bird pricing, you needed to be an organization. And it wasn't clear how you did that. Right? And so I was like, do I have to take out a membership as Herbal Arts instead of Erica? It was all very confusing. So I finally dumped all my confusion into an email and I sent it to them before Christmas, and they got back to me and said, we're so sorry, we understand that it is confusing and you do need to set up this other account that doesn't cost you anything, but the person who helped me out, whose name I cannot remember right now, very kindly actually set it up for me and sent me all the info. So I don't have to struggle with that. I just have to copy the info from the email she sent, and then I can set it up and get my early bird discount. So, very excited. So that may segue into some of the stuff I'm going to talk about today. But what we're going to make for a bat is, and by the way, I have lots of bats left from yesterday. I posted 2 of the discounted bats, all the single breed bats that I have left, which are mainly Cotswold, 1 Columbia. Those are 30% off. The other discount bats are 20% off. I have 2 left. And then tonight or tomorrow, I will be posting what's left of the regular price bats. There's, I think, 15 left or something like that. So, and anything else I'm making, it's, but please, help, please buy. Okay, so I've got this Rambouillet. It's called Periwinkle. It's from Esther's Place. It's the lighting's a little bright on top of it because of the skylight. But it's periwinkle with little bits of some purpley and so forth. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up the light blue with this bio nylon. We're going to pull out the purple with this bamboo and with some mohair locks. But I wanted to do some contrast. Okay? And so I picked green for my contrast, but not a lot. But we got some bio nylon in Garden. And then I pulled out from Tanya of Flannel Cake Fibers. She sent me to try out this cellulose, what's she called? In the Meadow. It's a 6-ounce cellulose fiber kit. And it's got these little bags. And they're all in you can see different pastel colors. Because some of these take color better than others. There's rose, lotus, hemp, banana, ramie, and flax linen. I've used the ramie a little bit. Now we're going to try the hemp. Because the hemp is this nice silver sagey green. And so we're going to use that just a little bit. Because it's just going to give a little bit of texture. We don't want a lot of it in there. So there's going to be no sparkle. I don't even have any silk. Bamboo will give it a little bit of glitz. The Carter itself right now is currently... here's the other question, which we have to answer soon. Do I want to put silk noil? That is all I have left of this silk noil, and I'd like to use it up. I don't think I'd use all of it, though, on 2 bats. I'm going to probably make 2 bats. And we'll see. So, I can't decide if I want to take that little fluff of it off, or I think I'm going to use it. I think I'm going to use it a little bit, just a little bit. I'm not going to use a ton of it like I often do. Okay. So we'll just, and actually what I'll do is I'll put this over here. It's sitting in my laundry basket. Hopefully I will remember to reach in and grab some. Okay, so we're going to get started on this. And I was trying not to clean off the Carter too much because I'm doing, in WAFA tomorrow, I'm doing a Sebastian Gets a Spa Day. So talking about drum Carter maintenance and cleaning. And so he's got to be a little bit messy, otherwise it's not really a productive. But he does need to be cleaned in his nooks and crannies because he's still squeaky. Okay, so we're just going to lay down. Oh, let me actually hang on. Tip you down, that will help. There we go. Okay, so we're just putting on the Rambouillet. And then we'll just add things to it. It's this nice tonal. It's not a sharp contrast. It's very subtle. So we'll see once we card it how it looks. You can see little bits of like the purple there. Heloise is sound asleep on the sofa. She was on me for a while, but then I had to move and she got very disgruntled. And sometimes what she'll do is she'll get off on her own, or I have to do, we have this secret noise, it's called beep beep. And when I say that, she moves. She knows it means get out of the way or whatever. So you can see this side, I think you can see this side's lighter than sort of over here. Anyway, so she is sound asleep there. As she is wont to. Okay, so we're just going to paint on some of this bamboo. I love this color. This color is called Urchin. Paradise Fibers is just dyed bamboo top. I mean, you can spin this by itself if you want to. It'd be very slippery, but you can certainly do that. I, of course, love putting it in things. Okay, so we've got that. Let's add... I don't know how much of this light blue I want to put in there. Let's just put a little bit. I think it's going to blend in a lot. Okay, now we'll get some of the green. Find the end. Hopefully this contrast will work. Oops, a little too much right there. Okay. Somebody watching could make a comment so I could see if the comments are working or not. That would be useful. Okay, so let's pull. This is the hemp, which is not soft. Yeah, it's not soft at all. So we're just going to use just the tiniest bit. I just need to figure out where the end is. There's the end. Okay. Now this probably has a pretty long staple, so the first thing I'm going to do is establish what the staple is. There we go. Hi there. Oh, New York. So actually I'm going to divide that in half and see how long. Just sort of pull like that. Okay. So that's a pretty long staple length. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to fluff it just a little bit. It's not super soft. So we're just going to put on little bits of it. You can sort of see it's a little wiry. I'm just sort of making sure it's okay. Just a little bit there. It's going to add just a little bit of texture. I don't know if you can see, it's sort of, it's hemp. Okay. So let's add in some of these. Now, I keep them in. I get these from Crafted by Locals. I like theirs, and I like Rachel's, and also Hidden Pastures also tends to have good no hair locks. And so hers conveniently come in this nice sort of reusable thing. I just sort of keep them in there. In the band, I sort of That way they don't end up all over the place. And then when I'm sort of done, I just had tugged this out and I just slip it back under to keep it sort of closed. So what I'm going to do here is pull these apart a bit so you can see, because they're going to get pulled apart because Sebastian has a very high TPI, teeth percentage, or tines percentage. But you always want to check because there's often debris caught in the little kinks of the little curls. And so what I tend to do for mohair is, some people build sandwiches. I don't even bother. Particularly with the mohair, it tends to be long enough. I can just lay it down on the tray. And there's one, there's the other. Okay. So there's just little bits of it. But what I am going to do is I'm actually going to look underneath here. Because I thought one of them may have fallen through, but it didn't. Okay. So just sort of blended in there. Okay. So let's see. Let's grab this. So just a little bit. This is the Silk Noil. And once again, something you want to paint on. I don't even want to think about putting it on the feed tray. I mean, if I was making a sandwich, yes. You could probably, I would pull it apart. And you can dye this. I like the white. So just a little bit there. Okay. I'll put what was left back in the bag. I think that just makes it, it gives it much more sort of like a garden effect. Okay, so now we start on more. So I've been doing a little bit of planning, thinking about 2024. And so since I've decided to do Convergence, that gives me 3 events in July, right in a row. And I've also got 3 events in a row in March. By the way, in March, all Sunday demos are going to be on Monday. That's just the way it's going to work. I'm going to fill in this part over here. So my planning, my thoughts about sort of, making bats. My goal is always to make at least 2 bats a day, at least 6 days a week. Don't always manage that, but that gives me at least 50 bats a month. Obviously, I have some days where I just sit down and I make a bunch of bats. But the idea is I should get at least 2 in every time. But for these months where I have multiple shows, 50 is not going to cut it. I need more than 50. I felt I needed some more there in the middle. So one of the things I'm going to be trying to do in January and February, because there are no shows except for WAFA shows, is sort of up the production of bats and create, I don't know if I've ever shown you a photo of what I bring my bats to shows in, but it's an IKEA plastic bag that you stick under the bed. So it's like 25 inches square and about maybe that wide with black handles on it, and it sort of zips up and then over and down a little bit. And I can get a lot of bats in there, get yarn in there, so forth. And what I'm thinking of doing is, as I'm doing bat production, essentially do make a bat, put it out on my bat rack that I always have my bats on. Make the next bat, put it in a bag. Okay? And I may even label the bags by the different shows. So that I have sort of a back stock that serves as sort of a base of, obviously I'm going to, right before the show, try and make a bunch more. But I'm not just start, and of course, things that are left over from earlier shows. Okay, so we did the light blue, we did the green. So yeah, so I need to think about sort of how to work that. Trying to also spin every evening. Particularly once I lose the light, bat making doesn't work very well because I can't, even when I get artificial light in here, sometimes I just can't see the color representations as well. And I hate it when I make something and it's like just off on color. And so, just like I said, be minimal with the curls here. So yeah, so I'm thinking about do the spinning in the evenings, so I have enough hand spun. The dyeing for the clothes only happens when I've got, obviously I've made enough money at a show to be able to do an order, so I can dye some up. We did that. So let's get to this. I do like this color combo. It's very sort of cottage garden. Yeah, so July is looking like Convergence, which is a 3.5-day show. I think the conference itself starts earlier, but the marketplace opens like midday on Thursday, and then it's all day Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Yep, I like that. With just a little bit of that. And then, so Sunday, so I would drive back to Iowa on Monday. It's in Wichita, Kansas. And then I would, I need to hear from Liz about Fiber U, which is the following weekend. But she was thinking about starting she usually does it Saturday and Sunday, and you set up on Friday afternoon. But she was thinking about doing a half day on Friday, which would mean I would have to drive down on Thursday and set up on Friday morning. So there's not really a ton of time. There's you can pull a few things out of the car when I get home, on Monday maybe, but probably that's an 8-hour drive back from Wichita. So, on Tuesday, I'm going to have maybe 3 days. I'll need to sleep in. I'm going to be dead for one day. So it'll be interesting to see how I work the timing on that. And then, so I'd have maybe a day and a half really of work, things I can work at. Because it's about 8 hours, 7 or 8 hours to Fiber U. Drive home on Monday, and then take everything out of the car, because the following weekend is Friday, Saturday, and Sunday is the Front Range Fiber Arts Bash. Oh, water lilies. Oh, I'm trying to think if I've used water lilies before. I'll have to think about that. I don't think I've used it, so we could do that. Anyway, so I have to take everything out of the car so I can then load up teaching things, which is all the drum carters and, a wheel and fiber. And then decide, do I want to be crazy stupid like I was this past summer, where I drove out to Colorado in one day. Takes 14 hours. I at least lose I gain an hour because of the time change, but still. Or do I want to take 2 days out? So I'm either leaving on Wednesday or Thursday. So the thing is, like, I won't be making anything. I'll just, like, get home, unload the car, load it up with the other stuff, and just sleep the rest of the time. So only, I don't know if can you see the flyaways here? I don't know if you can sort of see them. Let's see if I have something with a color. Anything with a color? No. Okay, well, let's see if I can. I don't know if you can you see the little white bits right there? Okay. So that's why I'm not putting a lot on there, because as you're spinning it, you don't want a clump of this stuff that hangs together in a very different way than wool does, because linen hemp, hemp or like linen doesn't have any grippiness. Okay, so we need some more of these. And then when I come back, I don't think I have anything scheduled. I don't know. That thing I went to in Omaha this past year, I don't know if she's doing it again and exactly when she's doing it. But third weekend in August, I have Michigan Fiber Festival. So I've got to have a lot of stuff ready for that one. See, what am I holding the fiber with? Let's see, are you holding the fiber especially when you add or just directing? Yeah, so there's not really any pressure. Let me show you. I can show you with this. I mean, you don't want it so loose that it gets pulled out of your hand, because then you'll have a clump of whatever it is. But when you're doing what we call painting on, because you have a lot more control where it lands up versus over here, you don't have as much control. And even when it's on here, I didn't do it for the locks because I know how they take up, but sometimes certain fiber I won't press down a lot, but I will put a little pressure on it to create a little tension. It just takes up better that way. But when I do this, I'm not squeezing really super hard. Okay, I'm just gently holding it. And sometimes I'll do this thing where I'll put a finger on it that way to sort of guide it. Because, yes, if you jam your hand down in here and you get like one of these teeth underneath your nail, that hurts. Okay, but I can pat the top of it. I can feel that, it's sort of sharp, but it's because they're all the same height. It doesn't hurt. Now, you don't want to scrape a knuckle on it as it's going around, because that will hurt. And getting one under your nail, like on these edges here, like if you jam your thumbnail down there, that will hurt. Okay. So what I'm doing is essentially I'm sort of dragging it across a little bit with the finger. So I'm feeling it most right on the tip of that index finger. And then I'm getting to the end, there's only a little bit left, so I'm getting the next finger out of the way and just sort of dragging it on the thumb. You can even paint, all of this on. There's some people, there's a woman in Japan that I sometimes watch, and I think she's got a brother, because I think brother shares her videos. And she almost paints every single thing. She paints the Angelina, which I'm just thinking is a recipe for Angelina contamination everywhere. I really like this. I really like this combo. So yeah, does that answer your question, Amanda? And you just learn like what fibers, how they go on, how much pressure you need to hang on to them. Staple length can make a difference. Obviously, the silk noil, noil actually really does stand for not over 1 inch long. And so, that's a super short staple. Versus, that hemp that I'm using, which is, several inches. And just a word of caution. So the circumference of this particular drum is 22 inches, I believe. I think. So never, ever put anything over that staple length, obviously, because you won't be able to get it off, right? You'll have to, literally use scissors. And if I'm actually using something really like long Wensleydale locks or something that can be 10 or more inches, I try to be very, I sometimes will put them through here, but sometimes I will just place them on the drum because I don't want them to have significant overlap over the doffer crease, which is where you break the bat. So if I had, say, a 10-inch lock, okay, and I put it so there's literally 5 inches on one side and 5 on the other, okay, negating the fact that there's a spot in the middle. That would be terrible because essentially when I break the bat, I'm going to gut it because, the half the lock is over here and the other half is over here. So if I had a nice long lock, I would probably, I'd start it here and then sort of place it on by going like that, sort of painting it on. A little bit more on. So we'll do this layer and then probably see how much we got left. Probably this layer and then another layer, depending on how full it gets. So my Faber Arts resolutions for 2024, I have goals, right? I don't really have resolutions. I have goals. It's spin more, knit more, weave more. That's just sort of nothing too specific. I would like to make another pair of socks. I've only ever made one pair of socks. And I have a couple skeins and patterns set aside to do that. So I have the materials. I should make them. I've got I got a little sock set from Mode Knits yarn. They're up in St. Paul. I often see them at shows, and they had this really kind of nice green that I liked. And she sent me. She was actually working. I think it was her, or maybe it may have been. I think it's Karen, her booth babe, or booth bitch. I think is what she calls her. She had. That spot feels really blank. She was making a pair, and I really liked the pattern. But they didn't have it, so after the show, they actually sent me a paper pattern, so that was quite nice. And then I've got a pattern that was actually, it's like a basic sock pattern that a member of my guild, we have a master knitter, she's gone through all the certifications, and she had one of our other members, Ellen Socornbut, Fiber Curios and Sundry, she has a bunch of natural sock yarn, so it's not superwash. What I bought from Mode Knits was superwash. Ellen's all about using the natural, hello, Tony, sort of the natural down breeds to make essentially natural cheviot and stuff like that. To make naturally occurring superwash. And so Ellen, I think Ellen had given her 2 skeins with the idea that she would take one of the skeins and knit up Ellen a pair of socks. and it was this nice sort of shorty sock pattern. But she's like, it's a basic vanilla pattern. I'm like, I've made one pair of socks. I don't know what a vanilla pattern is, and so she literally wrote me out a sock pattern. Super easy, and so I want to make one of those. I got some natural superwash, naturally non-superwash from Ellen to do that with. And then I gotta remember that this is here. I can put that in. So I actually have two skeins of that. And then at one point, I think it wasn't this year. I think it might have been last year. Greenwood Fiber, it's always at her Christmas. She's got those socks that are like green with this little bit of color work at the top, like a snowflake or something like that. And so I got one of those one year. So it's just sort of sitting there waiting for me to say, okay, you can make a sock now again. My goal was to make one pair of socks a year, but I'm 1-0. Well, I did it 1 year. Excuse me. I didn't do it this year, so I'm only at 50%. Okay, let's actually. I got a little hard piece here. So, the silk noil, you get these little hard bits. Okay, we need, however, a lock or two. Just a lock or two. Just a little bit. Yeah, I can't use Monet's Garden because I've used that one a lot. Some of my early bats were Monet's Garden bats. Yeah, and I've got, hang on, I can show you my one pair. I think I put them in here. It could be dirty, though. Oh, no, here we go. And so, these are my handmade socks. And they're done actually with a DK weight, because I was like, I need instant gratification, right? And they only took me about a month to make. And I don't remember what I didn't do the change in ribbing at the top because the way my legs shape, I don't like that. And I actually did 2 different toes. So I think this was the. What's that? I don't know if I did. Maybe I did. No, they look the same now, but I essentially put the seam on the outside because I'm one of those sensitive people who doesn't like the seam on the inside, so I seam them on the outside. But yeah, so those are, and they were done. This is superwash. It was little wet gems or something like that. But I specifically picked a DK because I didn't want to be working on it for years. So, yeah, they're kind of IKEA colored, aren't they? Okay, so we did that. We got the locks on. So let's put this on. So not a lot. Okay, last layer. And I can tell we're getting a little bit full. So we'll do this into smaller bits. So I would, it's a goal that I may or may not achieve, but I would like to make another pair of socks in 2024. And I also I got those 2 skeins to make those assigned pooling single skein things are like I love, because it's not like this huge thing. It's like, you finished the skein, now you got 4 more to do. So I've got the Bright Side shawl. I started it at the show in Camdenton in like the Ozarks in Missouri. But the needles I was using were bamboo, and there was a chip in the near the tip, and it wasn't. I was occasionally catching it, which I'm like, that's going to abrade things. And then also I got distracted and I dropped a stitch. Like I only got like that much done, and it was at the tip, so it was like just this tiny bit. And then I dropped a stitch, and I was like, let's actually not do this, and we'll wait until we can get some metal needles, and try it again. So I got the metal needles. They're sitting in the little project bag with the caked up skein of yarn for me to try again. And it's a light blue, kind of like the light blue here, with sort of almost a navy as the assigned pooling color. So the idea is you knit until you hit the other color and then you purl. And originally I had plans, I was thinking about, well, I could do like a little net lace stitch there. But then I just decided, let's just follow the pattern the first time. And then we can get fancy later on. Okay, I don't think I want to put any more of that color in there. So this little bit I have left will go back in the bin. Well, maybe. Hang on. Let's do this. Let's make it really, really super thin. Get it on there. Okay, there we go. And we're going to take this, and so with the burnishing brush, the needles are bent like that. And so I lead with this edge so that these get folded down as opposed to this edge because would tear up. Okay. So we're going to press down. We're going to go slow. Because if I press down, hopefully... Now, if you have an actual packing brush on your carder, you can also just press down. If you watch Caitlin, she does that a lot. And I do that with Cadfel. Okay, so that is on. So let's do our last layer. Definitely make sure the bamboo goes on first so we can trap it with everything else. Squeak, squeak, squeak. Press that down. So I'm going to put a little more over here. I particularly like to put things like this right near the edge. Not going over, because you don't want it to get caught on any of the moving parts. But it just makes the outside look pretty when I roll it up. Okay, so we got a little bit I was going to remember to do of the bio nylon. So the bio nylon is going to trap, I don't want to get it directly always over the purple, but I want to have it sort of trap in the bamboo, because the bamboo is so slippery. A little bit of the light blue. A little bit of the hemp. Separate it a bit. Yeah, and I don't remember if I couldn't find my kitchen stitch instructions, and I just think I decided, whatever. I have a little card with my kitchen stitch stuff written on. Okay, so let's put on a lock or two. I think I'm going to put one or two more on. Let's see, that one ended up there. Sometimes you can't tell where they end up. particularly if the color blends in. Let's see if there's any below. Nope. Okay. So just a little more silk oil. And once I tease out the bat, you won't see a lot of the silk oil. It looks really sort of obvious as I'm putting it on here. But okay. Long comment. I need to be able to. Gotta get it on a good background so I can read it. I use a wallpaper horsehair brush. Oh, to pack. Yep. Okay. I find that the wire brush packs better than a hairbrush. Okay, so, and are you, Gina, what kind of Carter are you on? Yeah, Patty, aren't they great colors? Do you know what brand of Carter you're on, Patty? Sorry, Gina. Okay. Getting a little bit of transfer here. That's good. It gives me something to clean tomorrow. Okay. So, and when we take this off, I won't be like nudging things along the way. Normally, I get every bit of fiber off here, but I'm trying not to do that for tomorrow. So, I have this paintbrush thing, okay, which it's pretty clean right now. I mean, it's a little dirty, but I mainly use it to sweep up stuff. You can use it on like a blending board. I mean, you could do that. You'd have to probably press as hard or harder than I do with this. Okay. And that's also because people always ask me why I hold it like this. That's because of the direction of the teeth. Some people do it like this, but I always think that's going to abrade it a bit. So the electric Patrick Green. And the Patrick Green I think is similar to, I know like the Brother, even like the Brother manual that I have, Cadfell. But I also use the big electric, Brother that Teddy Jansen got this past summer. And what I've found is you're only getting, if you're on an 8-inch, because this is about an 8-inch, I think the Brother Carter's the drum's a little bit wider than this. But Sebastian has longer teeth. Okay? The teeth on the Brother tend to be smaller, and so if your teeth are shorter, your bats are smaller, because there's less room, right? So I can really pack it on here, which is why I often get bats that are usually 2 to 3 ounces. Largest one I've ever had is 3.7. But you might be able to pack a little more with a burnishing brush. Usually the burnishing brushes are like $20 or something like that. Brother makes them. This is just the one that came with the Carter. Okay. You can also, let me see what I got down here. This is the one that came with my Fancy Kitty, but the teeth are really close together, and so I haven't decided how I feel about this one. At least the teeth are going the right way, so I can go like this. But the other one I wanted to show you, hang on, let me get under here. I also have I have a little bitty one that came with, I don't remember which Carter, but you can see the teeth aren't as close together as those are. And this one, that's the Fancy Kitty as well. Hang on. Oh, here it is. It was underneath. This one is a Clems and Clems. You can see these teeth are not bent. I got this one from Susan's Fiber Shop. This one's a little more expensive. I got this one early on. I haven't used it very much, but you can see the teeth are straight, but they are still, except for this wayward one at the end, they are still vaguely slanted in this direction. And they made it's sort of a heavy duty one. Clems and Clems sort of made it under Susan, what's her last name? McFarland's advice. Okay. Teeth they're sort of, I mean, they're really long teeth, I will say that. Like a Carter with teeth that long. Because they're even longer than what I have here on Sebastian. But they are sort of closer together. You do want to be careful about not pressing too hard because you don't want to bend any of your teeth either. So, hey, doggy brushes. Doggy brushes are a great way to go. Okay, so let me move these off of here. Okay, so we got that. Let's break the bats. Okay, grab something over here. Get this out over here for when we need it. Okay, so we need your doffer stick. Your doffer stick might be small, a little bitty doffer stick. This one, I don't feel like you get enough length for the fulcrum or whatever. But I do like this one. The other thing I really like about Sebastian is his doffer crease actually has a crease in the crease. So you pull in and then you pull up. I don't like to do a lot at a time. Like an inch maybe, if that. I like to pull the largest bits to the right. Yep. And so I just use, I think the hardest thing is when I'm teaching classes and I don't have enough, I had one person try and do stuff with a knitting needle. I'm like, you're going to break that knitting needle. It was a bamboo knitting needle. I was waiting for it to crack. I told her to take it off in little bitty portions. Because I was using a couple of carders that weren't mine, and the carders were there, but they didn't have the extra brushes and doffer sticks. So I'm always very careful when I'm doing this that I'm not pressing directly down so I don't get, once again, a tooth under the thumbnail. I try and go more to the side over here. And you don't have to do this. It's just something I developed and I really liked. Mainly because as I was taking the bats off, all of this stuff at the end would get essentially pulled, stretched out by the liquor in, and it just looked kind of sloppy. And I didn't like that. Okay, now this is where I'm going to go repeat myself. Don't worry about stuff being left behind on the drum. Don't worry about stuff being left behind on the drum, because we need it to be messy for. It's gonna be nice. This Rambouillet comes off really nice. None of this being careful like I normally am. Okay, there's a little bit on there. So you can see a little, particularly when I use silk oil, that tends to be, particularly when I use a lot of it, I get little bits of it stuck over there. Okay, so before fluffing, this is what it looks like. Isn't that pretty? Okay, so now I am going to step off camera, and I'm not going to move the camera because all you're going to see is my back end. If I did this. So at some point I will do another video showing you the magic that I'm doing off screen. Essentially I'm just teasing out the bat to make it wider. So it was roughly 8 inches. It's probably going to be closer to 16 by the time I'm done. Because I've made a very thick bat. Now, I will say the bats I have made on Cadfel, which is my standard brother drum carder. They don't get fluffed as much because the bats aren't as fat. Because the teeth are shallower, and so I don't get as much fiber on. But because I do the jelly roll, ta-ta, it needs to be thinner so I can actually fold it like a letter and then roll it up. Okay, so this is your chance to guess the weight. So, the person who gets closest gets emoji trophies and bragging rights until next week. Okay, so we're going to put that on there. Tear that out. Put your guesses in. Okay. This is heavier than I thought. Anybody have any guesses? You got some guesses? Okay. Okay, Nutty Nanas, haven't you been watching Nutty Nanas when I said I normally make bats between 2 and 3 ounces and 3.7 was my largest? I cannot get 4 ounces on this thing. Okay, this is Sebastian, by the way. Okay, last chance to guess. Okay. It is 2.93 ounces. I'll have to go back through and see who got closest, but okay. So let's make my notes here. So I always take a little. So all the stickers I use on my bags, there's the paper they were stuck on. So I cut them up into, it's slippery on one side, and then this is the back side. I cut them up into these slips, and this is where I record all the info that I'm going to have for the label, like the weight, and the price, and then the name, which we're going to do water lilies. So it's just a good way to sort of recycle those. And I have a little tub over here that I put them in, and this one's pretty much full, but eventually, they all get stuck in one of these, so I have a record of everything I've made. But I'll write down all the ingredients and where I got the ingredients and all of that. So, yay! Well, I'm so glad you could watch. Okay. So, I'll take some photos. Probably, it's getting really dark out, so I probably won't take photos until tomorrow. There's enough. I'll probably make a second bat of this. And as always, because the website is still not up and I haven't worked on it, if, I make something you want it, let me know. Okay. As I said, I'm going to go do my application. I'm going to have some matcha. And then I'm going to go do my application for Convergence. And then I'll try and get the rest of the photos up from things that are left over from yesterday's sale. So thank you very much for tuning in. I hope you have a very pleasant New Year's Eve. If you're in Wafa, please come join us. I'm hosting the first 2 hours of the 7-hour Ringing in the New Year event. So you can certainly come and join us over there. Otherwise, I will see you in 2024. Take care.